another learning experience I had, along with cutting out the middle of those doors. I ordered some cane webbing or rattan webbing off Amazon. I ordered 2 rolls because I wasn't sure how much I needed, and I wasn't sure if I was going to muck it up. Better safe than sorry. And now I have leftover for another project, so that's good. The 2 rolls that I ordered were, I believe, 17 inches by 3.5 feet. Once I removed the rattan roll out of the package, I rolled it out on my work table, and I found that it was really stiff and difficult to work with. It's not easy. It's pretty darn stiff. So you're going to need a paint can, or I used a paint can on one end and I used clamps on the other to hold it down. I started by taking my measuring tape and measuring the amount I needed for the inside of the doors. I'm not going to give you the exact measurements because your project is going to be totally different than mine. But what I do suggest is whatever your measurement is, if you're new working with this cane webbing, probably add on 1 inch to each side, which is very generous. You could get away with 1/2 inch, but I added on extra to all my sides. I went ahead and I measured the middle of my cane webbing and marked it off with a Sharpie. Then I went ahead and measured the length that I needed. Once I had all my measurements marked off with a Sharpie, I went in with a straight ruler and a rotary cutting tool, which actually worked awesome. It worked really, really well. And I went ahead and I cut all 4 pieces for the doors. Now, I found the key to making this rattan cane meshing much easier to work with is by soaking it in warm water for at least 30 minutes. So once I had all my 4 panels cut out, I ended up putting it into my paint sink and giving it a good soak before I started installing it into the doors. And this made such a huge difference. I mean, it was like night and day. Once it was soaked and it had absorbed some moisture, it was much more flexible and pliable and so much easier to work with. I set up my work table with a big drop cloth and some towels, and the towels were to absorb some of the moisture from the rattan. Drop cloth was so when I started installing, I would not ruin my paint job because it was a fresh paint job that I had just done. So I didn't want to do it on any sort of hard surface. Using a pneumatic staple gun, which I just love this thing. I can't tell you how many projects I've used this on. It is just fabulous. And if you have a compressor, I strongly suggest getting one of these. It makes life and DIY projects so much easier. However, if you have a manual staple gun, that will work just as well. So I went ahead and I started stapling in these panels, and the way I found worked best for me was to staple in one staple in the middle of one side, and then make sure that the rattan or the cane was all straight and lined up with the side of my door, and then put 1 staple on each side so I had it secured, and then go back and just run those staples all along each side. And as you can see, I had a ton of excess cane mesh hanging over, which obviously needed cutting down afterwards. But you know what? I think if it makes you feel more comfortable for a first time trying something, it's not a bad idea to do a little bit of extra rather than find yourself running short and feeling uncomfortable about it. To cut off the excess cane webbing, I started using scissors, and it worked okay. You can certainly use scissors, but to get a cleaner cut, I found using my utility knife much more efficient because it got right in there. And even though it left a little bit of a line, because it would cut through the wood slightly along with the cane webbing, that's fine because I actually had the trim that I'm going to cover it all up with, so it was no big deal. But see how nice and close the cane webbing gets cut off, and it looks so much neater. To give the back of these doors a really clean finish, I use this trim and just laying a little bead of glue along the edge. And or if you're using trim, you could lay a little bit of glue, or you could use a nail gun with trim nails just to shoot it in nicely.